Opening Minds lecture series, Making Sleep Your Secret Weapon. Hi everyone, thank you for joining me for an Opening Minds lecture on the topic of sleep. This isn't just a topic of interest for me because it's one of my favourite ways of spending time. I'm obviously also fascinated in the world of elite sport. And there's been a lot of recent research on the way sleep can be used to give teams and organisations a competitive advantage. In his book titled Sleep, ex-director of the bed manufacturer Slumberland, Nick Littlehales, described writing to Sir Alex Ferguson before anyone was really considering sleep to be a factor in performance. Fortunately for him, Sir Alex Ferguson was always an insightful leader with an open mind, and Littlehales became heavily involved with the club at the time of the famous class of '92. Ryan Giggs, Nicky Butt, the Neville brothers, Paul Scholes, David Beckham, and even Cristiano Ronaldo all reaped the benefits as the club introduced what was probably the first training ground sleep recovery room on the planet at their Carrington training facility. David Brailsford led GB Cycling through a remarkable period of golden success, becoming perhaps the most successful British Olympic programme in history. When he left to lead Team Sky, people laughed when he suggested that they'd win the Tour with a British rider, a feat no British rider had ever come close to in the previous 106 editions since the first Tour. In his quest for success, Brailsford developed the concept of marginal gains, finding small performance advantages in areas that others were failing to or unwilling to look. In an event like the Tour, which demands that riders recover after huge efforts day after day for a 23-day period, he didn't neglect sleep. As the race tours France, riders would move from hotel to hotel, each room, bed and mattress slightly different, hindering sleep, recovery and ultimately performance. Citing an opportunity, Brailsford employed a team of carers who would go from hotel to hotel, remove the mattresses, vacuum underneath, and replace them with mattresses and pillows made of elastic foam that had been customised so that the riders could maintain the same posture each night. Some pillows even contain built-in speakers so that as riders drift off to sleep, they can listen to what they want without disturbing or being disturbed by roommates. Brailsford and Team Sky, or now Ineos, have gone on to win 6 of the last 8 tours with 3 different riders. Another author, Matthew Walker, has been at the forefront of research on sleep in recent times. He works with the NBA and many of the teams to improve sleeping habits. Working with the Golden State Warriors, he used sleep tracker data to compare differences in performance when a player has more versus less than 8 hours per night. With more than 8 hours, he found a 12% increase in minutes played, a 29% increase in points per minute, a 2% increase in three-point percentage, and a 9% increase in free throw percentage, compared to, with less than 8 hours, a 37% increase in turnovers and a 45% increase in fouls committed. It's not just sport but also business. Google and Nike are both famous for having adopted a more relaxed approach to work schedules, giving employees time in their day to catch up on much important sleep. Littered throughout headquarters are dedicated relaxation rooms with nap pods where employees can go when tired and feeling unproductive to catch up on sleep. An organisation that was way ahead of its time was NASA, who refined the science of sleeping on the job for the benefit of their astronauts, discovering that naps even if they're less than half an hour, can still give a significant increase in focus and performance. So why the talk? Well, really, this is just a topic of interest for me. I'm not trying to fix any of your problems, and I'm not qualified to do so. For those of you already adopting healthy sleep habits, do nothing differently and don't overanalyze it. Just keep doing what you're doing and benefiting from fantastic sleep. For those of you that neglect it, I guess I hope that the talk might encourage a rethink. Taking sleep for granted in modern society is not unusual. We've all heard the sayings, "I'll sleep when I'm dead," "I don't have time to sleep," and heard about the concept of pulling an all-nighter. I certainly have in a school setting. The World Health Organization have suggested that 2/3 of adults throughout all developed nations fail to get the recommended 8 hours of sleep. Is this a problem? And if it is, then why do we need to solve it? The functions of the first three human drives, to eat, drink and reproduce, have been well understood for tens or even hundreds of years. But the fourth biological drive, the drive to sleep, has only really started to gain attention more recently. From an evolutionary perspective, sleep is a strange phenomenon. When asleep, you can't gather food, socialise, you can't find a mate and reproduce, you can't nurture and protect your offspring. Worse still, sleep leaves you vulnerable to predation. It really is one of the most puzzling of all human behaviours. Scientist Dr. Alan Rechtschaffen claimed that if sleep does not serve an absolutely vital function, then it's the biggest mistake the evolutionary process has ever made. Yet, sleep has persisted. Every species studied to date sleeps. Surely then, the benefits must outweigh all of those proposed disadvantages. I don't think this is the right forum for me to start to summarise the research on the benefits of sleep. There are plenty of books that will do that for you, which I'd be happy to recommend. But in a world where people are constantly looking for the next quick fix, what if we said that there was an amazing breakthrough, a revolutionary new treatment that made you live longer, enhanced your memory and made you more creative? It makes you look more attractive, keeps you slim and lowers food cravings, protects you from cancer and dementia. It wards off colds and flu, lowers your risk of heart attacks and stroke, not to mention diabetes. You'll feel happier, less depressed and less anxious. Are you interested? Of course, that's not an advertisement for a miracle new drug, but rather the proven benefits of a full night's sleep. Just to touch on a few of the benefits that are perhaps most relevant to our students. Number 1, the impact of sleep on the brain. When you next sit down to map out your plan for revision, do so knowing that sleep should be a vital part of your plans. If you want to retain all of that important information, then the all-night session is not the way to go. Of the many advantages of sleep on the brain, that of memory is particularly impressive and particularly well understood. Sleep has proven itself time and time again as a memory aid, both before learning to prepare your brain for initially making new memories, and also after learning to cement those memories and prevent forgetting. Number 2, the impact of sleep on emotional state. Even without the science, I know that I'm a different person when I sleep. I can also speak from experience when I say, post-sleepover, my children are unbearable. Research would tell us that rather than all negative though, we're in fact more prone to extreme mood swings when sleep deprived, fluctuating from extreme lows to dangerous dopamine-fueled drives towards sensation-seeking, risk-taking and addiction, all potentially just as harmful. So then, it's no coincidence that I find it harder to walk past the red wine on the kitchen side when tired, even though I know that it will only harm my sleep and that early morning training session. Number 3, the impact of sleep on the immune system. Clearly particularly relevant now. This is not a time to neglect sleep. In the first instance, sleep acts as a proactive measure, fighting against infection by boosting your immune system. What about when you are sick? Do you remember the last time you had the flu? Bedridden. All you want to do is sleep. And with good reason. Your immune system is stimulating the sleep system, arming it with the tools needed to fight infection. Don't rely on medication. Good sleep habits are a vital part of avoidance and cure. All of the many benefits sound great, but where are we going wrong? What can we do differently to enable us to unlock our potential with sleep? Well, first, let's imagine we're going to take a journey. We're going to leave all of our modern technology behind, watches, phones, computers, TV screens, and we're going to go off to a desert island. No distractions. I'm sure we've all seen the programs on modern TV. We'll go live off the land just as our ancestors once did. We'll hunt and fish and sleep under the stars. So once out there on this island, we make a camp in great rolling fields. When the sun eventually goes down and the temperature drops with it, we build a fire. We're going to spend quite a lot of time now without daylight, so we want to eat. We cook, devour the spoils for the day, and then sit back full, chatting, absorbing the amber light of the fire as we look into it. Eventually, as talk subsides, we gaze up at the stars for a while before one at a time we turn over, curl up, and drift off to sleep. With no alarm to wake us, we sleep until the sun starts to approach the horizon. The birds will start singing even before it gets there, and when it does, the temperature will start to rise. Even if it's really cold, it will still rise a bit and everything will get lighter. Whether or not you're covered with a blanket, the light will eventually get in and we wake up. If you can come as close as possible to replicating that pattern, then you're probably giving yourself the best chance possible of getting a good night's sleep. But with phones, alarms, and all of the other trappings of modern technology, we've moved further and further away from our lives fitting with our natural circadian rhythms. Now clearly, when it comes to top tips and tricks for improving sleep, not everything is within our control. For example, I believe in the power of napping. Between 1 and 3 o'clock every day we have a window that fits with our natural circadian rhythms where we can add to our overall daily sleep. However, I can see no time in the future where Mr. Hewlett is going to accept me finding a quiet corner in the main office to catch up on sleep. So, what are the things that I would recommend? The things that you do all have control over? Well, for that, I'm going to refer back to Matthew Walker. And in the back of his book, entitled Why We Sleep, he came up with 12 recommendations, 10 of which I'm going to relay to you. So number 1, stick to a sleep schedule. Try and go to bed and wake up at the same time each day. As creatures of habit, we find it really hard to adjust to changes in schedule. For example, sleeping into the early afternoon on weekends won't make up for a lack of sleep during the week and will only make it harder to get up on Monday morning. Try to set an alarm for bedtime and also set an alarm for when you want to wake up and stick to it. Number 2. I'm sure your parents will have told you exercise is great, and I would certainly agree with that. But try to avoid exercise too late in the day. Try to exercise at least 30 minutes on most days, but certainly not later than 2 or 3 hours before your bedtime. Be really careful with caffeine. I love a coffee as much as the next person, but you need to be aware of how late in the day you drink it. And it's not just coffee. Coke, teas and chocolate all contain the stimulant caffeine, and the effects can take as long as 8 hours to wear off fully. In addition, alcohol before bed is a big mistake. It might help you relax in the first instance, but heavy use will rob you of REM sleep, which is that deep, powerful sleep, and keep you in the lighter stages. Number 4, avoid large meals and beverages late at night. A light snack is okay, but a large meal can cause indigestion, which interferes with sleep. Be cautious of drinking too many fluids close to bedtime as well, because it can also lead to frequent awakenings for visiting the toilet. Number 5, I love naps, but you need to be careful about taking naps after 3 p.m. They can help you make up for lost sleep, but later afternoon naps will just make it harder for you to fall asleep later that night. Have a cut-off time for work, technology, and make sure you've got time to relax before bed. Don't overschedule your day so that no time's left for unwinding. A relaxing activity such as reading or listening to music should be part of your bedtime ritual. No, I didn't mention phones or any other form of screens which will emit a form of light which will make it harder for you to access deeper sleep cycles. Number 7, why not try taking a hot bath before bed? The drop in body temperature after getting out of the bath may help you feel sleepy, as well as helping you to relax and slow down so that you're prepared for sleep. Number 8, and a big one, bedroom etiquette. Your bedroom should be dark, cool and gadget free. Get rid of anything in your bedroom that might distract you from sleep, such as noises, bright lights, an uncomfortable bed or warm temperatures. You'll sleep better if the temperature's cool. A TV, phone or computer can be a distraction and deprive you of needed sleep. Make sure your mattress and pillow are comfortable, which will also help to promote a good sleep. Also, I'd recommend that you avoid clock watching. Turn the clock away, it will be there when you need it. Number 9, try to make sure you have the right sunlight exposure. Daylight is key to regulating daily sleep patterns. Sleep experts recommend that if you do have problems falling asleep, try to get an hour of exposure to morning sunlight and turn down the lights before bedtime. And finally, number 10, avoid just lying in bed awake. If you find yourself still awake after staying in bed for more than about 20 minutes, or if you're starting to feel anxious or worried, get up and do some relaxing activity until you feel sleepy. The anxiety of not being able to sleep can make it harder to fall asleep. So thanks very much for joining me. I look forward to catching up with you all soon. If any of you do have any interest in the topic and you'd like to read further, I'd be happy to recommend some really good books that summarise a lot of the information. So do get in touch with me directly.